right, algebra students. So the last couple lessons we've been talking about the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula is important because it is a way of solving for x for quadratic equations. So if we have a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, our a, b, and c terms are defined here. So a is in front of the x squared, b is in front of the x, and c is a constant alone there. And then we plug in those values and we can simplify to solve for x. So we've had quite a bit of practice with that. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take what is inside the square root here, so b squared minus 4ac, and we're going to do some work with just that. That is called the discriminant. And the discriminant is important because it tells us how many answers and what kind of answers we'll get when we solve for x in the quadratic formula. So let's look at the discriminant. So the discriminant is the b squared minus 4ac. That is what is inside the square root of the quadratic formula. So we're just looking at that little part of the quadratic formula. And that's going to tell us how many answers we're going to get for x. So we'll solve just b squared minus 4ac, and if it is positive, if we simplify and our answer is positive, then we're going to have two real solutions. If we get a negative answer when we simplify, then we're going to have no real solutions. So in other words, our answer will be imaginary or complex. So it has that I term in it. And if you get a 0, if you simplify and your answer is 0, then that's just one real solution. All right, so let's look at this positive one just a little more closely, because there's two cases for the positive. If you get an answer that is a perfect square, so if perfect square, and what I mean by that is it's a number that if you square root it, you won't get a decimal. So like, for example, 25 is a perfect square. The square root of 25 is 5. Or the answer 49 would be a perfect square. So in this case, if it's a perfect square, then the answer is rational. And if not, then it is irrational. So if not perfect square, then answer is irrational. Okay. So let's look at a couple of these. So we're gonna jump over to your note packet. Keep this paper handy because this is important when you're solving these. You need this handy so we can reference it. But I'm jumping over to the note packet and I'm on page 37 here. We're going to do some practice with this discriminant. All right, so here's our learning target for today. I can use the discriminant to describe the nature of the solutions for each equation. So discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. It's what's underneath that square root in our quadratic formula. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we know the formula, b squared minus 4ac. So that's what we're using here. That's our step 1 of our success criteria. b squared minus 4ac is our formula. So then we have to decide or determine what is our a, b, and c. Determine what's our a, b, and c. So standard form of a quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So our a term is 16. Our b term is 8. and our C term is 1. So that's step 2. All right, now we're going to take these values, 16, 8, and 1, and we're going to substitute them into our formula there. So now I have 8 squared minus 4 times 16 times 1. Now just simplify it. So 8 squared is 64. And then negative 4 times 16 times 1 is negative 64. 64 minus 64 is 0. All right, so I got my answer of 0. This is my discriminant right here, 0. So now I'm going to use my chart, step 5, use my chart to describe the nature of the solutions. So here's my chart. I got a 0 discriminant. So that is going to be one real solution. And then that would be my answer. So 0 discriminant means that we're going to have one real solution. So if I use the quadratic formula on this, I'm going to get one real answer. Let's try B. Go ahead and pause the video, find the discriminant on your own, and then use your chart to describe the nature of the solutions. All right, let's see how you did. So remember, we're using our formula b squared minus 4ac. Our a is 2, our b is negative 5, and our c is 6. Then we'll plug it into our formula, use these values into your formula. Negative 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times 6. Then we'll simplify. Negative 5 squared is positive 25. Negative 4 times 2 times 6 is negative 48. 25 minus 48 is negative 23. My discriminant is negative 23. Now I'm going to use my chart. All right, so if it's a negative, then that means there's no real solution. So what that means is I'm going to get 2 non-real answers. Or you could say imaginary or complex. All right. All right, so let's look at our chart one more time. Let's add something here. Instead of saying no real solution, let's write 2 non-real. A little more specific solutions. Okay. All right, so that concludes the lesson. Short and sweet today. Let's take a look at what you're doing for your OTI, your homework here. This is the worksheet that you'll be working on. And we're just practicing this discriminant. So we're going to find the discriminant, and then we're going to use the discriminant to say what kind of answers this quadratic formula will give us. So let's look at number 1. So A is 1, B is 3, and C is 5 here. And then we'll plug it into our formula. 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5. So that would be 9 minus 20, which is negative 11. All right, so negative 11, that is, I'm going to use this little box down here to help me out. And I'm going to give you some hints here. So one rational solution would be a 0 answer. 2 rational solutions would be a positive answer and it's a perfect square. 2 irrational solutions would be a positive answer but not a perfect square. And then finally 2 imaginary solutions would be a negative discriminant. So in our case we have a negative discriminant, so this is going to be 2 imaginary solutions or 2 non-real solutions. And if you want to do the coloring activity, you would color this number 1 yellow. So instead of writing two imaginary solutions, I'll just put a Y here for yellow, and then I can reference this chart to see what that means. All right, so let's look at number 2. Pause the video, try that one on your own. All right, for that one, you plug it in and you should get a 0 for your discriminant. So use your chart down here. A 0 discriminant here is one rational solution. So one real solution. And then I would color, if I wanted to do the coloring activity, I would color that blue. So this is one real solution. And up here, this would be two non-real solutions. All right, let's practice some that have the perfect square. So let's go down to number 6. Pause the video, try number 6. So for number 6, you plug it in and you get the answer of 36. So the discriminant is 36. And I can know that 36 is a square, is a perfect square because the square root of 36 is 6. So this is a positive perfect square, So that would be down here. Positive perfect square gives us two rational real solutions, two rational solutions here. Okay, and then if I wanted to do the coloring activity, that would be the color green. All right, so this is what you're doing here. You're going to do this page. So find the discriminant and use that discriminant to tell what kind of answers you're getting here using this chart. And if you want to do the coloring activity, you can, but that is totally up to you. That is optional. So that is it for today. And now you're ready to do your work.